Democrat representatives and resident morons Ted Lieu and Kathleen Rice have sent a criminal referral to the FBI over the Donald Trump call between President Trump and Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger. Now, they are alleging that in this phone call, Trump makes statements that amounts to criminal acts. Why are they alleging this? Well, they're either liars or they're idiots or they're both. We cannot reject the possibility of that third one being true. These people are not only making this recommendation, you could maybe forgive a dumb congressman for being dumb, but they are trying to falsely bolster their authority on the issue by referring to their previous careers as prosecutors. And to me, that is the most offensive part, because any honest prosecutor, if you can find one, any honest prosecutor looking at this and looking at the context of the call knows that there is no way that President Trump has solicited in any way unlawful activity from Secretary Raffensperger. It boggles the mind and stretches the imagination to figure out how a president on a recorded call to a Secretary of State with, at minimum, 4 lawyers present would make these criminal solicitations, and not one of the president's own attorneys would step in to stop him, and the other attorney on the phone wouldn't object to these as criminal behaviors in any way. No one on that phone considered those acts to be criminal. This is grandstanding, it is posturing, and it is actually a little bit disgusting. But it's also fueled by a media who has taken that phone call, clipped parts out of context, and presented them to the public, and is hiding behind the shield of articles like this, which is the full transcript and audio recording, which will be included in the description below, along with the press release. So go ahead and check them out. If you haven't listened to or read this phone call, I encourage you to do at least one of them, if not both, and you will quickly put to lie the idea that anything untoward or illegal happened on this phone call. Now, people can debate the wisdom of the call. They can debate some of the posturing and tone that President Trump uses. But I think by now we know the posturing and tone that President Trump uses, especially in some sort of semi-hostile discussion. It gets a little bit over the top. But that doesn't make it criminal. That doesn't make it in any way illegal or even wrong. The things that were most shocking to me in that phone call were the fact that the lawyers for the president kept saying over and over to Raffensperger and his counsel, Ryan Germany, hey, we've been asking for access to this data. You guys just keep telling us that you looked at it and you determined everything was fine, but we haven't been able to look at any of it. And that is the part that should really rankle Americans, is that we have a state with several people at very high levels of government, several people at varying levels of credibility. I mean, you may not like everybody who is looking into this, but there are a lot of people looking into this, and many of them do not have credibility issues that come along with some of the more vocal ones. They're looking at this and they're going, wait a minute, we see these problems. We need access to more data to verify whether or not these problems exist. And the state of Georgia consistently refusing to do so in any meaningful way, hiding behind the shield of the courts, when the courts haven't actually reviewed this data either. In fact, the courts have specifically punted on this and run away from it. But let's take a real quick look at the 3 crimes that they're alleging President Trump committed and why those crimes are absolutely bogus. So the first one is this 52 USC 20511. And this is probably the most egregious. And if these were actual prosecutors and they brought this charge actually against someone over a phone call like this, they would need to be fired. And that person would have a civil cause of action against them because this is ridiculous. It's the idea that Donald Trump asked Raffensperger to create 11,780 fraudulent ballots on behalf of Donald Trump, something that never happens on that phone call. In fact, Donald Trump does not ask Secretary Raffensperger to create or find or tabulate a single extra vote at all in any way. He never asks him to add a vote to the total. In fact, the entire discussion is about removing allegedly unlawful votes that President Trump's team has determined that there are possible legal issues with. And he says there are so many that you could take any small subset of them and you could still come up with enough votes for a victory. That's the context of the quote, and that is the obvious context of the quote that anybody honestly reading this transcript would come up with. No one could think that Trump asked for a single vote to be added to the voter tolls based on this. They can't do it. It's not there. Next is 52 USC 10307, which is you can't cause someone, or you can't, an election official cannot deny reading a vote for some sort of fraudulent purpose, basically. They can't refuse to count something. They're saying that Donald Trump's statement to Raffensperger that it's okay to say that you recalculated is somehow a solicitation for him to unlawfully recalculate or retabulate votes. But again, in context, it's nothing of the sort. It's not even close to that. It's simply an assurance that says, look, if you go through and you find out that there were mistakes, there's nothing wrong with admitting that you made mistakes. It's actually important to the country and the integrity of the process that if there are mistakes, that we catch them and that we talk about them and admit them. And almost any reasonable person would agree with that statement, that if the state of Georgia were to go through and actually audit the votes and come up with a different number, and they could say, look, we made errors here, here, and here, these votes were double counted, whatever it may be, that it would be a good thing to be transparent about that process and to disclose it as fast and as fully as possible. This is not a solicitation. And again, no actual prosecutor would think that this is a solicitation. And so then here is the other one, Georgia Code 212604. This is solicitation to commit election fraud. And this is because this is under Georgia law rather than federal law, and they're saying that because Trump asked Raffensperger to do these things, that is solicitation to engage in criminal activity. This is all completely bogus. It's fueled by a media who is dishonest because, let's face it, it's the media, it's 2020, it's President Donald Trump, and they will not give him a fair reading on literally anything. They've been in the tank for Joe Biden since before Joe Biden was the nominee. They don't care that it's Joe Biden. You could have put the corpse of Ruth Bader Ginsburg up and they would have rather had her as president than Donald Trump. And the worst part is, they'll tell you that they will. And they intentionally suppress stories that were favorable to Trump leading up to the election. The media stole this election and they're trying to suppress any effort to have any questions answered. And they're giving people like Raffensperger a giant shield to hide behind, and it's absolutely disgusting. These two representatives are a clown sideshow to this story. They should maybe reconsider their law licenses, and they should probably resign from public life. All right, guys, if you like these legal and political updates, please drop a comment below, hit subscribe, go ahead and share this to your friends. Let's get talking about this. We'll see you soon. Peace. Peace.